What's up, guys? It's Chris, FCA. Welcome to our weekly podcast, In the Huddle, where we ask current or former athletes to join this huddle in this space to talk about what God has done, what He's doing, and what He will continue to do. I am super excited about today. Have a friend of mine, former quarterback. Just a lot of things that I could talk to you about, man. Adam Froman, thanks for joining our podcast today.
Absolutely, man. It means a lot to be here. I know like I'm walking up and you keep thanking me for coming out here, and it fills me getting an opportunity to sit with you. Like what I've realized, especially as I'm coming into adulthood, is there are so few times where we actually get to sit and talk about meaningful conversation, and every time I sit with you, it's meaningful. So
well,
I appreciate
man,
it.
I love it. I love it. It's almost like surreal for me. Like when guys come to play a sport and they actually they're your friends then, but man, for a friendship to continue, I mean, you've been out of ball for 15 years,
Dude.
now,
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Not that long.
Every
You've been out
time.
of school.
No, it is that long. 'Cause I graduated in 2010. Well, it was the end of 2010, so I guess it'll be 15 at the end of this year. But yeah, 14 going on 15 years.
Wow. Well, if you're old, I'm ancient, man. So, hey, I'm excited to have you on, man. I'm super proud of just where life has taken you, the man that you are, the husband that you are, the father that you are, the man of God you are. Just but it's been a journey to watch you just kind of grow into you are today. And He's not done with you yet, and He's not done with me, and we're still growing, and that's what's so cool. But catch us up, man. You're from California.
Nope.
You know, a lot of people may not have known that. From California, tell us what it was like growing up in the Froman household in California.
Yeah. So growing up in Northern California, I got to make sure I specify because there's like two states of California out there.
That's right.
When you're out there, it's a very important distinction. But yeah, I come Santa Rosa, about an hour north of San Francisco, up in the wine country. Beautiful place to grow up. You know, I mean, I grew up playing all the sports, riding dirt bikes, riding mountain bikes, being out in the woods, camping and hunting and do all the things that you wouldn't think of California as. You know, everybody thinks of California as San Francisco or LA, and I grew up in a very different California, and so I was there. Sports was always something that I enjoyed doing. I got taught at an early age. My dad. So I have a younger brother, 2.5 years younger than me. My parents divorced when I was 11, going on 12 years old. Just kind of grew up in a split household, and sports for me was kind of what I dove into. As a kid, you don't really realize when you have kind of like a trauma and you deal through stuff, but sports is what I dove into, and I was always decent size, was always super competitive. But growing up, I was very lucky that I had parents that were very involved, in my life, and my dad for our relationship, it was sports, and I learned at an early age, you go out there and playing baseball, right? And you go 3 for 4 with 3 triples. Well, why did we not go 4 for 4, right? What happened there? Let's get out in the backyard. Let's get on the tee, And so learned at an early age that hard work is necessary to get improvement. Now, it's funny because, I have very different opinions on parenting now that I'm a parent, and I've got a 10, a 7, and a 5-year-old. We're going through all that. But, starting when I was younger, a lot of my drive to be successful and to be the best, at anything that I was doing was so I could avoid playing a game and then getting home and have to go in the backyard and go hit off the tee or, doing that kind of stuff. And it sounds, bad. Like, well, I wanted to avoid my dad, going out and do that. Well, what that did is when I was young, it created a habit, right? It created a habit of doing every rep, everything that I could at the very highest level to where I could avoid that. Well, it becomes a habit, and then you're doing it because that's just what you do, right? And I'm a firm believer how you do anything is how you do everything.
That's right.
And it started then, and so that was big. And so, coming out of high school, I was a 3-sport athlete: basketball, baseball, football. Actually started as basketball, baseball, soccer. I'd played soccer my whole life. Couple, junior national team, like tryout stuff. Like soccer was probably my best sport, and being a dumb kid in high school, I got mad at the coach, and football coach had been bugging me to come play, so I was like, I'm gonna go play football. Forget soccer. So picked up a football for the very first time my sophomore year of high school, and fell in love with it. Had a baseball scholarship out of high school, turned that down to play junior college football, which in hindsight I was like, man, you're an idiot. well, why would you turn down a scholarship to go play junior college, But, luckily he had a plan and it worked out. And so played 3 years, had a redshirt year, and then played 2 years in junior college.
That's Santa Rosa, the
Santa Rosa
Cubs?
Junior College.
Is that what it was?
Bear Cubs.
Bear Cubs.
Yeah, Bear Cubs, which, it's funny, like, when you're on the team, like, you don't think of the mascot. Like, you say it out loud, and people are like, Bear Cubs, huh? That sounds scary.
That's awesome.
Like we never even like thought about that. We're like, yeah, we're Bear Cubs.
Yeah.
So anyway, but had a little bit of success there, and luckily it led to having an opportunity to play football elsewhere, and so that's what brought me to Louisville.
Yeah. So you have great year there with your junior college, and you get some opportunities. Obviously, the coach at the time, Steve Cragthorpe.
Mm-hmm.
Why and love Steve. Man, Steve was an incredible guy. He passed away not too long ago. I love Steve Cragthorpe as a man, as a coach, as a person. I know we didn't win a lot of football games those years, but I tell you, man, he was influential in my world from an FCA standpoint, and very instrumental in the lives of a lot of men. And so, man, I'm going to miss that guy. But why did you choose the University of Louisville?
It's a great question. So coming out of junior college, I was 20 going on 21, right? Most high schoolers coming out of high school, right? You're 17 going on 18. You're still a kid. I had a couple of years more, but now looking back, I would say I was still a kid, at that point, but just a little different part of life. Because growing up, and even when I graduated high school, I had no intent to ever leave California, no desire to. Had everything I wanted there, all the people I knew there. I figured I'd play, Pac-10. It was Pac-10 at the time, not Pac-12, and maybe it's dissolved now. I don't even know what it is now. But that was the intent. But being a little bit older, I had this pull, this kind of this tug of I wanted to do something different. And I had most offers from most of the Pac-10 schools. Could have played there. And Louisville was actually the largest school, the farthest away largest school that I had. And so
Never been to Kentucky.
Never been to Kentucky. No, I honestly, I had never been east of Colorado.
Oh, wow.
And that was, even small trips. So it was definitely something different. And a lot of people assume, they always ask me like, man, that must have been a culture shock, coming here. And it really is not. The Louisville area and Kentucky in general was very similar culturally to what I grew up in Northern California, just kind of out in the country part of Northern California. But when I came here, in hindsight, you can look back and it's funny to see his plan, and just, he puts the bricks in place in your path when he needs to. You don't have the knowledge of it at the time, but you can look back and see it. And when I came here on the visit, it took about, I'll bet it was within the first 2 hours where in my head I'd already decided this was where I was coming. Like it just felt right. Yeah. And that's a combination of things. That was, history of the program, where we were now. The coach, Steve Cragthorpe, he's a man that I have no shame in saying I love that man. Absolutely loved that man, and am thankful and blessed to have come here, and that was on purpose. But when I came here, I'm on the visit, and you meet people. I had that pull, I had that feeling like this was where I needed to be. And, obviously we weren't in a good spot as a program. We had a couple years removed from the Orange Bowl, and then hadn't had a winning season since then, and of course, as a competitor, as an athlete, I look at him coming in and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be the savior. I'm going to come in and we're going to win football games and we're going to save it, and I knew that Steve, his job was on the line. And there's a lot of, I took a lot of respect and appreciation at that time, knowing his job was on the line. He was betting it on me, to save it. Now, we joked around for a lot of years afterwards, like, man, he should have chose better because I wasn't good enough to save the job there. But yeah, man, it just, there's no other way to describe it other than it just felt right. Yeah. So I committed, and coming out of junior college, it's a different timeline. So my visit was first or second week of December, and I officially moved out here 3 weeks later. I was here January 1st. And then it was, ready to go. And I showed up. I knew nobody. I know a single person. I had 2 suitcases with everything pretty much that I owned. Betty Johnson dorms weren't open yet. So I got put up. I actually stayed in Eric Wood's bedroom in a house with Pete Nocta and a couple of other guys, Josh Byram. I think Tronso might have been there. Didn't know the guys, just kind of got put like, hey, you're gonna stay in this house for a couple
And
weeks
you
till day
make
job's
you make
open.
friends with anybody, man. I mean, and when you're teammates, there's something special about that. Like
100%.
sports teams can do something that countries can't do, community centers can't do, countries can't do. They can take different people of all different ways of life, and they can call each other teammates, man, and they can bond quickly. And you did that, man. You're a people magnet. People gravitate towards you. You're a quarterback. You're a leader, and that was a squad. That was
Yeah.
a good team, man. That was a
Yeah.
really good team. You played for two different coaches, obviously,
Yep.
Craig Thorpe, and then you had Charlie Strong. You had a solid career. Went back to a bowl game. I remember Coach Strong still making fun of the Beef O'Brady
Oh,
bowl.
dude. He made fun of us endlessly. He's like, oh yeah, we made Beef O'Brady's bowl. Nobody even knows what that is. Like, what is this bowl game? We're going to play Southern
man.
Miss. But that was how Coach Strong was. And that's that transition, because you look at our senior year, right? When we go 7-6, we get back to a bowl game, win a bowl game, was the first bowl game in a long string of bowl games. Following that, and that's kind of our claim to fame, right? Is, okay, we got it back on track. But you look at that team, it wasn't that much different from our junior year team. We lost a couple of guys, but pretty much the same group of guys, man. It was a mindset shift.
Yeah.
That turned a 4-8 team with no hope, no passion. I mean, I remember the last game junior year, we're playing Rutgers on Thanksgiving. Ice on the side of the stadium. I'll bet there was 3,000 people in that stadium, playing that game, and everybody knew Coach was getting fired. Coach knew he was getting fired. We're there, nobody wants to be there. We take that team, and Coach Strong and that whole staff just comes in with a bunch of passion, with a bunch of fire. It was just something that we needed, right, as a group. And, and we kind of turned around, man. Senior year was a blast. It was a phenomenal group of guys, and you look at those guys. We didn't have a bunch of dudes that played in the NFL for a long time. Blau was the one that made it the longest. But man, it was a group of guys, good guys, good dudes that wanted to play for each other, that cared about other guys, did things the right way, were willing to work, and and then we had a little bit of luck too.
Yeah, won that bowl game, beat Kentucky. That started something really, really, really special. I've always said that when Strong came in, that kind of just catapulted the football program and the athletic department into a great trajectory of what was going on. It was great. So you graduate, you play with the Falcons, you get a little run with the NFL and some Arena League teams and some of that. Tell us what it was like to be a professional athlete.
Well, it was, you're growing up as a kid, right? And you're like, okay, I want to be a pro athlete. And when you're a kid, you pick different things. And I remember saying when I was little, oh yeah, I want to play in the NFL. I didn't even play football, right? But, oh yeah, I want to be in the NFL, or I want to be in the MLB, or whatever it is. Weird part for me, and I have a very unique situation. But unfortunately, halfway through senior year, had a season-ending injury. So didn't have a ton of film, had decent stats, but for a short amount of time. So ended up going undrafted. Well, that was a year to lockout. So draft happens, you go undrafted, no teams can talk to you. So I sat around, trained, for 3 months, and got calls, had a couple of opportunities to go to a couple different teams, chose Atlanta. Got there, and man, it was a little bit of a letdown. Because you build up this thing in your head of what it's going to be, and I realized very quickly, this isn't a game anymore. Like, this is a business, and it's not necessarily about what you earn or what you deserve or even the work that you put in anymore. And I made my whole career, I was very under-talented. In every quarterback that I went against from junior college all the way to Louisville, I would argue I was probably the least talented of every single one of them, but the only way I knew how to do it was the way that my dad taught me when I was little, is you just outwork everybody. And that's not to say we didn't have guys in the quarterback room that worked hard. It's just, that was my thing. Well, you get to the league and it's not about how hard you work anymore. There's a lot of dollar bills that are involved and a lot of zeros, and learn very, very quickly that it's about business. And when I got cut in Atlanta, you got the head coach and the whole offensive staff that says, hey, you are who we thought you were. You did everything that you were supposed to do. You're a leader. You lead guys. They follow you. You've done everything that you're supposed to do. You deserve a spot on this team. Unfortunately, this league is not about what you deserve. It's about business. And so we got to let you go. So that was the first, punch in the mouth. But it's like, okay, you pick yourself back up and you go and signed a contract, went up to Canada, played up there for the rest of the season, was able to come back in the States, got an arena contract, had a couple tryouts, a couple other teams. And it just, again, the business side of it without going too far into it, it just didn't work out for me.
Yeah.
At the time you took that really hard, right? Because as an athlete, as a competitor, you never think I'm not going to make it, right? That thought never enters your head because you're trained not to. And at the time that was hard.
Yeah, and your work ethic, you always outworked everyone. You made locker rooms better. Your attitude was contagious. You're not the Marines. You're the Marines recon unit. You're not you're not the Navy. You're the SEAL. You are, and that's just the way that you have been wired. You lead people, and you were always used to working harder than the people next to you. And to see that as a business, you were always an overachiever and still are. You still outwork your opponent. That hard work, you outkicked your coverage even with your wife, man. You outkicked your coverage.
Speaking of
on her.
overachieving, yes.
Yeah, you
100%.
did. You overachieved big time.
Yeah.
Mallory at the time, Heyman, is that?
Hammond.
Hammond.
Yep.
Hammond, okay.
Yep.
She's a rower,
Yep.
an athlete, an athlete in high school. I think a couple sports as well.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about you meet in college.
Yep.
You start talking. She helps you in this career, man. You realize that to do life with someone else, you have to be part of somebody that's bigger than yourself.
No question.
And tell us about just dating her.
Yeah. No, that's. I mean, you said it best. Like, you talk about outkicking your coverage and overachieving, man. It's the greatest overachievement, that I could have done. And we always laugh because she was a rower here at U of L. She's an All-American. Led the team in that V8 boat, and there's no shortage of times where she reminds me that she was better at her sport than I was at mine. Not that there's any competition in the household, but that definitely comes up. But man, she had graduated. She was working on her master's degree, and man, we met, and I always joke around and tell people, I was like, yeah, man, she was just chasing me, thinking I was going to be an NFL quarterback, and jokes on her, but that ain't how it went. She made me work for it, man. She made me be a better person, and I was in a time of life to where I would say I was starting to grow up a little bit, was starting to see, my own flaws and see that there's something bigger out there, wanting to be better, realizing that life wasn't just about throwing a football, and chasing things that were bad for you, and so I was in this time of life where I was transitioning, and she was there at the right time, to help me, in that, and she's made me better from the time that we met, in my senior year, and continues to do it day to day now, and so
I've always said that a wife of noble character is her husband's crown. That when you find something really good, you brag on that, and Mallory did that to you.
Mm-hmm.
Mallory does that to you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that she softens you up, because she doesn't. She's not wired that way to soften you, but she makes you better.
Yeah.
At what God has called you to do, and she supplements you. You all are a great team together, and to watch you guys. I mean, I was honored to do your marriage, and to stand there on that farm and to see you all get married. It's like, this is good. Mm-hmm. This is, there's some marriages you go to and you're like, God, you're going to have to intervene.
Yeah.
But then there's some that you just stand up there and you proudly say, these guys,
mm-hmm.
they're committed, they're loyal, they're going to make each other better, and you guys have done that. What has marriage taught you?
It's funny you ask that, because I was actually just having this conversation with one of my Josh Byram, who was my starting right guard at Louisville, and we were having a conversation, and I asked him a question. I said, man, is marriage what you thought it was going to be? When you're growing up, right, and you're getting into that. And so we had a good conversation about it. One thing that I had said, and I think I know I still stand behind, man, is marriage is so much harder than I thought it was going to be. For me, in this naive, mindset of growing up just kind of doing your own thing. It's like, oh yeah, marriage can be this great thing, like husband and his wife, and you just kind of go do life together, right? And it's gonna be easy. Well, life ain't easy,
That's
right?
not.
And life's not supposed to be easy, right?
Mm.
His plan for us doesn't say that it's going to be rainbows and unicorns, all the time. It just says, hey, his plan is perfect, and he's going to do everything for the good. And well, everything for the good doesn't mean it's going to be good here, right? We get so caught up in this, like, well, right here, right now on earth, that's where it needs to be good. No, that's not what good is. Eternity, where we're
That's
going,
right.
like that's where it's going to be good.
That's
And
right.
so we, along the way, he's going to test our faith, right? He's going to put us in opportunities to where we can build and we can strengthen. Well, I agree with you 100%. When you're a team, right? Same way you have a locker room, right? There's things that a team can do that nothing else can do. Well, the same way in marriage, and that's something, man. We've been through some hard stuff, and there's no way that I could do it by myself. Whether that's career, that's parenting, that's home life. I mean, you name it. You go through it with a teammate and somebody that cares, and that's not to say that every day is easy, and and we're just high fiving all the time. But man, marriage is hard.
Mm.
But I've learned how important it is to have a teammate that's willing to go through it with you.
That's so good, man. There's several times that I have told Tammy, I don't care what we go through as long as I get to go through it with you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a great similarity between our one of the greatest ways that we can bring glory to God is in our marriages. And if there's anything that kind of encapsulates what our relationship with God is, it's our marriage. That we will let our wives down. Our wives often sometimes maybe let us down. But we're still a team, and we still are faithful, and we're still loyal, and we still push through together. And so, yeah, especially a marriage that is a Christian marriage, and you weren't raised so much with this. Your
Nope.
faith has it's kind of evolved into this beautiful picture, man, of like you're a man's man. You like to sweat and to hunt and to do this and do that, but like your faith is important to you. And it's not something that you run from, that you embrace. Are you perfect? No. But it means a lot to you, and you share that same love and desire to grow in your Christian walk as you do with Mallory. How has that kind of
Well,
evolved your faith?
I would think the one word that I was thinking about as you're going through these things that marriage does for you, in that relationship. The one word I think you left out is you learn to sacrifice. Right? You learn to put somebody else above you, because there's times, I mean, we're guys, right? Consistently, we'll let our wives down in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Luckily, they give us grace, to come back.
Yeah.
But to your point, there's times where she's let me down, and guess what? It's okay. We're gonna learn through that together, because our job as a husband, I truly believe this, and this is something that I think as God lays out those stones I talked about before, we're laying those bricks on our path. Right, in that marriage, you go through those hard things, you learn to sacrifice, because every day that something goes wrong, or something maybe doesn't work out the way you thought it would, well, it's not about you, right? It's about the team. So you've got to sacrifice for that team, and that has led me in. My faith has been such a journey, and it started at Louisville. I grew up never once opened a page of the Bible. I couldn't have told you that Jesus' words were actually read in the Bible. I had no idea. It never opened a page of it. Just wasn't in that household. Now always had some version of respect. I kind of use that standard line of like, oh yeah, I'm not religious, but I have my faith, and that's a cop out line. I don't even know what that means, but always had a respect that there is a higher power, but it really had no connection to what that means. And it's evolved over the years. And man, I'm such a hard head and a knucklehead, and have just done so many dumb things in life, just so counterintuitive to his plan for us. But by his grace, and only by his grace, he created me, and it was on purpose, and he created my heart, and he knows my heart. And he knew, and now that I've seen this play out multiple times since it happened, but he knew how to take me down to the very bottom, where, this mindset and this, belief and perception I have in myself that, hey, I can do anything. I'm in control of all this. Well, he stripped me of all of it. Took me right down to the bottom, to where the only thing I could do was look up. And then at that point, that took 35 years. Like I was 35 years old when I hit that point. And I had a lot of questions, it was going that way, but as growing in that faith and growing in understanding, I didn't understand that I wasn't the tip of the spear, and so he brought me all the way down, broke it down to where all I could do was look up. He's like, "Hey, I'm here. Come on, let me show you this thing," and so, and that's growing, and then I've seen that played out, in multiple quicker, succession type things, and
It's been beautiful for me to see it. As you're going through it, it's probably a heck of a thing to experience, but it's a beautiful thing to watch it unfold because it's the beauty of the gospel that we truly understand our need for Him,
yeah,
and that's an attractive thing to me. That you have lost none of your competitiveness. You still want to compete. You still want to be the man's man. You still want to be the protector and the provider, but you do it with a sense of like not for my own glory, but now for His, and that's often left out in today's world. That you succeed because you want to get the bag or the fat check or the bigger house or the bigger this and the bigger that, and it's a mirage.
Yeah.
It's a mirage that you can see, and when God really opens our eyes spiritually to understand that, like, I'm all you need. Trust in me with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge me, and I'll make your path straight. And we're blessed beyond measure because we no longer live for ourselves. We live for something else.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is a beautiful thing, in Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I'm God. Like that is my mantra of all mantras, and try to stick that as much as I can. And, as a man, right, as a man in today's world, right, we're expected to do all those things you just talked about, right? And I love hunting. I love fishing. We've got a farm. I'm raising animals. I want to raise the kids. I've got 2 boys and a girl. And I want to raise the 2 boys to be men, to be the protectors, to be the providers, to, do that whole thing, all thing that the world sees as a man. But the change is when I realized 2 Corinthians 12:9, right, is boast in your weakness because in your weakness my power is perfected. And that changed when that clicked for me. I have spent my whole life trying to pretend I don't have weaknesses, right? Whether that's lying to myself or lying to everybody that knows me, creating this image, this perception, out there. And when I hit that, I was like, man, it's okay for me to have weaknesses. Not only is it okay, like, I should boast it. I should be excited about those, because in those moments where I can't solve a problem, right, or I don't have a solution, or I'm not the protector, or I'm weak, I'm stripped down, He will show me His power, and He'll show everybody else His power. Like that to me is so exciting. Like the anticipation of that. And I look at it as, you look at anything in this world that we're in, right? We put value on all this stuff. You can only serve one God. That's it. So if you're serving money, you're serving sport. For me, it used to be football, right? That was my God that I focused on, and I've learned since then that that's not what's important. Like He's going to give you that stuff too. But when you learn that in those moments, right, you don't have to be perfect and all that kind of stuff. Okay, you're going to make more of a difference in the world, and I say by you're going to make more of a difference, He's going to do it through you. You're going to make more of a difference in the world in your moments of weakness when you allow His power to come through you. And you react the right way instead of doing this whole worldly thing of like, no, I'm tough. I don't have any problems. I mean, that's being a man. That's being a man. And that has changed our whole family. Yeah. Me not trying to have this mirage in this, fake perception to everybody else out there that I've got it all together. I mean, I fail every single day. Like I said, I'm a knucklehead. And when I fail, man, I hit my knees and I thank Him for His grace that He's given me an opportunity to learn something.
Yeah, and you're not ashamed to say that either.
Not now. I used to be.
You're not, and whether that's to other guys, I've witnessed that. I've been on the other end of that phone call, or I've been on the other side of that table, where you're like, man, I really screwed this thing up. But it's not just those guys. It's obviously to Mallory, and Mallory is an incredible follower of Christ, incredible follower of where you're leading the family. But she is a strong woman. Mm-hmm. She is an educated woman. she is a strong mom. So it's not like that she's second class by letting you just go out. No, she just understands God's word, and that as as you're leading and as she's following God's lead and her prompting that He's speaking to her, man, that's in unison. You all are a great team, but you've shown those weaknesses to her. You've showed those
She
weaknesses
knows them better than anybody. I can promise you that.
to your children. Okay, well, talk to us even about parenting. Like
Yeah.
you can talk in a lot of different avenues with that. Tell us because your kids, it's not the things that are taught as much as the things that are caught.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, tell us about parenting from a Christian standpoint. You got these kids that are just watching you, and you're countercultural.
Mm-hmm.
You're going. The world is going to say, "Hey, do this, do that," but you're saying from God's word in a different manner. What are some things that you're showing your boys?
That's a great question, and that's, I feel, is like an evolution. Every day of where we're going, and so my kids, like I said, 10, 7, and 5. Gunner's the oldest boy. Loan is the girl in the middle. Branch is the youngest one. The way that God influences us every single day, I think the biggest change in my parenting, because to your point, Mallory and I are probably considered by the world standards kind of weird. We're a little countercultural when it comes to it, man. We cook every meal at home. We don't go out, try to eat, real food. We get our kids, if they need to miss a day of school, no problem. Let's go out in the woods, go learn something real, for life, purposes. Let's get in the Word. Let's go see God's work instead of going in the classroom and sitting there like we're okay. I'll pull kids out of school, anytime in place, and that's weird in today's world, And I mean, we're looking at homeschooling potentially, a couple of them, and getting in that, and so we're strange in that sense. But I think the most powerful thing that I have learned as a parent, as I have evolved as a parent, is it goes back to exactly what we were just talking about, is being able to allow the kids to see that I am not perfect. Right? As parents, we have this, well, I'm going to say, I keep generalizing people. Me, before he stripped me down to build me back up, saw being a parent as I have to be perfect all the time. I need my kids to never see me have a weakness. I need to model to them, what perfection looks like. And man, does that tear you up inside?
It's hard.
Because you're lying to the world, you're lying to yourself, and you're lying to your kids. And when I have seen it over and over, and there's so much power when I can go just mess something up, and my kids see me hit my knees, ask for forgiveness, and they see me say, "Hey, I was wrong."
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that, again, like on that guy spectrum, right? It's like, well, I want to teach my kids respect. You talk to your mom a certain way, and that's the expectation. When you don't, there's punishment for that. Right. And we have good consequences. We have bad consequences.
Yeah.
My job as a parent is to uphold those consequences, good or bad, in either direction. And man, we get into this thing to where it's like, it's got to be perfect all of the time.
Not only is that hard, that's impossible.
It's impossible. It's impossible, but for me, understanding, having that relationship and understanding the grace that has been given to me to screw up so bad so many times.
Yeah.
Well, when my 10-year-old, right, is frustrated at something, and mom says something and he has a reaction of like, I'm going to spout back, right? Well, maybe instead of me coming down with the hammer, and expecting perfection and being that hard-nosed guy, well, maybe we can have a learning experience. We have a conversation, right? And we can allow him to see it and see his mistake through my opportunity to give him grace.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think as a man in today's world, not reacting emotionally is so difficult, and be the first one to say, like, fight or flight, I'm gonna fight every time. You
Me too.
square up, let's go, and learning to push that down a little bit and have some empathy, have that grace for other people. I think that is the strongest thing, the most important thing that I could teach my boys, is to have grace for other people, because nobody's perfect, and you for sure ain't perfect. I'm for sure not perfect. Allow them to see me fail. Allow them to see me accept grace. That's been a hard transition too, right? Accepting.
That's such a good lesson. Not just for your boys, but myself. Hearing you say that, everybody that's watching this, that there is grace, and that's the reason Jesus came. is to fulfill something that we couldn't do. And for your boys to see you own a mistake and a weakness and say, hey, that's something that we're still taking. I'm still taking to the Lord. That's again, I said caught, not taught. They watch that, and that's modeled, and you're doing a great job of that, man. You shared a book with me, I guess a year ago. I've read it once, but I thought about it as you came in today. Just the comfort crisis.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, because I think it's really just as far as guys, it really, as soon as you mentioned it to me, I got it the next day. I mean, it was a fantastic read. I loved it. But tell me a little bit about the mindset behind that book.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So the Comfort Crisis, Michael Eastman is the author, and he's a writer, does a bunch of stuff around, but he's gotten really big into kind of combining the, I guess you would call it spiritual a little bit with the scientific, pieces of the puzzle, kind of connecting all the dots. And this book really is about how we as humans, right, we just live such easy lives, right? And the genesis of the whole thing is like, look, the easier you live your life, the more difficult it becomes, because as humans, we are hardwired to make things difficult, right? If everything is on easy street, we will find a problem. We'll find something. And like you look at our whole world, right? We create these little microaggressions for everything across the book. Well, why do we do that? Well, it's because life is so easy. If we're hungry, we got food right there. And if not, we don't even have to go get it. We can pick up a phone and call somebody. They'll bring it to us.
They'll bring it to you.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're thirsty, there's always water on site. If you're cold, turn the heater up. If you're hot, turn the air conditioner on. Like, we live 72-degree lives all the time. And well, now it's hot to walk outside and it's 32. It's hard to walk outside when it's 32, or it's hard to walk outside when it's 100 degrees. Right? And you look at our ancestors and what they wandered the desert for 40 years. Right? Like, that was hard. The stuff that there's nothing we do in life that's hard. And so this book talks about that, and talks about some of the repercussions, right, mentally and emotionally, of our society, of kids specifically. And I love it because it really advocates for go do hard things. Go do hard things. And the harder you do, the harder the things that you do, the easier life will become. Right? Now, there's a lot more to that, and a lot of it comes down to what's in these pages too.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it really gets down to the spirit. If you're living, Galatians 5:16-18, I believe, is spirit is in direct opposition of your flesh, right? And your flesh is in direct opposition to your spirit. So which one are you living for? Which one are you living in? Well, for us, our flesh wants it, like, atavistically, our flesh wants it to be easy. It's a survival instinct. I'm going to do it as easy as I can. Right? That's hardwired into us from way, way, way back, from the very beginning. Okay, I'm going to do it easy. Well, when we can interrupt that hardwiring and we can go with what the Spirit is calling us to do, and that's to be the very best that we can for God, right? If you're going to run the race, run it in such a way as you're going to win, right? So, but that doesn't have to be just a race or a football game or one of those. That's life every dang day, right? When we go to work, do it to the best of your ability. How you do anything is how you do everything. And so what came down to it, and my takeaway from this whole book is created what's called a misogi, and I guess we can go into it, with more detail here if we want to, but it's basically train yourself to go do hard things so that life becomes easy. For athletes that are coming out of college, this is something I try to talk to as many athletes as I can, right? When you're in college and you're getting up for 5 a.m. workouts, you go straight to the training room, you go straight to classes all day long, you come back for lunch, you go back to practice, you got training room again, you're up late at study hall, boom, and rinse and repeat. Yeah. Well, you are destroying your body, right? That takes emotional, that takes mental, that takes physical commitment, perseverance, all that stuff. You do hard stuff all day long, every single day. So guess what? All the life stuff becomes really, really easy. Well, when you get out of college and you don't have that regimen, right? You don't have those hard things to do every day. I noticed, that life all of a sudden started becoming harder. Like, day by day, it was becoming harder. And I noticed, started making that connection is because I wasn't doing anything hard, right? The stuff that I didn't think was hard before, all of a sudden now is getting really stressful. Yeah. And so that's really kind of the genesis of what this book addresses is how do we attack that? Yeah,
to find hard things to do, and that the military term is really just to embrace the suck.
Yeah.
To really just, hey man, life is not supposed to be easy. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be difficult. And so, we train our body. There's many times that the alarm Well, now at the point where the alarm really doesn't even wake me up anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you wake up, and you get into your Bible,
Yep.
and earlier on, I got to admit, I didn't even know what I couldn't have pronounced some of these names,
Mm-hmm.
and it was boring to me, and now just you stuck with it, you continue to stick with it, and you read it, and it becomes a habit. It becomes not that I have to do this, but I want to do this, and
Absolutely.
and it and you do hard things. So that could be joining a discipleship group, man. That could be running a marathon. That could be heck doing something really 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 hard. Signing up, getting up to do it. Um, yeah, so it was a great read. Um, I want to change gears here because I want to talk about a friend that when you have friendships, a lot of times they're about the same, like whether it's people that you play the same sport, or you're the same age, or they go to the same church, or they go do this. You had a friend in your world, man, that was your neighbor, that was much older than you, and I just know he meant a whole lot to you. Um, that God brought him into your world, man. And
No
I'd love
question.
for you to kind of just share a little bit about what brought y'all together, and just give him the flowers that he deserves,
Yeah,
man.
man. I was curious where you're going with this, and yeah, it's Jim Pierce is his name, man. He. So when Mallory and I, after college, right, with the pro sports thing, and then I got into coaching. I was college coach in multiple places. We lived in 6 states plus Canada in 5 years, all over, bouncing around, and we had our first kid on the way, and I decided I wanted to be a dad more than I wanted to be a coach. So got out of coaching. We were able to move back to Louisville. When we moved back, which again, you look backwards at the path that led you there. Crazy story led us to buying this house. Bought the house, and we lived there for probably 2 weeks. We get a knock on the door, and it's an older couple, mid 70s, coming over, and they, hi, we're the Pierces, we're your neighbors, and they brought some, I forget what it was, pie or cookies or something like that, and of course he shows up, he's got a UK jacket on, a UK hat, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go, and and we struck up a relationship, and he from the very get go, just good people, just good
Hmm.
wholesome people, and now he's old school now, old school. It took a good 3 4 years for us to really create a depth of relationship, and now we're at the point where our kids call him grandma and grandpa. He carries around pictures of my kids in his wallet, shows them off to his grandkids. But he was the first guy to invite us to church that we go to now, Crestwood Baptist. Invited us, and at the time when they invited us, we weren't interested. It's just not really our thing, not really what we do. Fast forward a number of years later, we're 8 9 years into a relationship, and we just grown super close. Over the years, he's a man of God, he's a man of faith. Incredible integrity. Um, Obviously he's not perfect because nobody is, but I haven't seen a flaw in him yet. So I'm sure they exist, but man, phenomenal human being.
Baptized you?
And when I was ready to get baptized, I asked him to put his hands on me, and put me down there. I mean, that connected us on another level. And again, talking about that path that not necessarily easy. Everything is for his perfect plan, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Unfortunately, we got a diagnosis midway through 2023 that his wife Brenda diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and unfortunately, kind of progressed pretty quickly. And we kind of became a little bit of their caretakers. But man, he lived on 80-acre farm. His dad bought when he was 6 months old. He lived there his whole life. I say unfortunately, according to the plan, him and Brenda weren't able to have kids. So didn't have anybody to pass the farm on to. When he's at the point where he's 84 now, slowing down a little bit, but still, he's got the fire in his heart to be out there and farming. But he made a commitment. And one thing he told me, he said, when I married Brenda, I made a commitment to God that I was gonna be with her through good and bad, and thick and thin, and easy and hard. And he said, my commitment is to her. If that means that I got to go to a nursing home with her, and it'll kill me, I know that, but I'll do it. That's my commitment to it. And I need to make sure the farm is taken care of. And his two big things, man. He said, I can't see it turn into a subdivision, and I can't see it grow up in weeds. I need to find somebody that will farm it, that will ranch it, and will take care of it, the way that I have. And he approached us, and man, it's turned a relationship that started with a knock on the door, with some cookies and a UK jacket, has turned into somebody that's changed my life, my kids' lives, potentially my grandkids' lives, forever. Because now we're on a farm, we're raising livestock, we got cows and sheep and chickens and orchard trees and all this kind of stuff. And every single day, I get to watch the sunrise on God's creation. Get to watch it sunset on God's creation, and know that He gave that to us, and He put these pieces in place all the way along for this plan. And man, you talk about changing your heart. For us, right, for the Froman family, there's this incredible blessing, because it changed the way that we raise our kids. Every single day we get to go out there, and I get to spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour with my kids outside, just talking. There's nothing else to do, whether we're throwing hay, we're just going for a walk, whatever. We're talking about literally changing our life. But knowing that this was given to us because of the just unbelievable pain that he's going through right now with watching his wife, degrade. The one person, he's a farmer, right? He didn't come home from work and go head to the bar to go hang out with buddies, go to B-dubs and get a bunch of wings. He comes home to Brenda. So you've got one person, they've been married 56 years. They actually count it in months. Just, I think, 639th month anniversary or something like that. They literally count it in month. And for all of those years, all those months, the one person you come home to and you talk about the good, the bad, politics, religion, all that kind of stuff. And now he's got to watch her not know who he is. And the weight that carries on your heart, knowing that he has blessed me in so many ways and poured into me in so many ways. And now it's time for me to pour into him. Yeah. And
I love watching how you still take care of him. You help him. And I know you said, he wasn't able to have kids, but just how good God is that you're a son to him, and he views it. He views you as his son. And what a great story. What a great story of the faithfulness of God.
Yeah.
And it's demonstrated in that. You've told me that story many times before. I know him. I've met him a couple times. I guess in closing, man, I've always asked this question to people. It can be a different word at different times of my life when the question's asked. But who is Jesus to you?
Jesus is, and it's funny because we just got done talking about this, to where, Jim views me as a son. I view him in a certain way as a dad, as a father. But Jesus is my father. And in all the ways when I think of a father, right? When we talked about it, I want to show my kids how to be a man, right? How to give grace, how to love, how to do the whole thing. There's nobody that modeled that better than Jesus. Like, when you think of being a father, a dad, good consequences, bad consequences, we got to uphold them both, right? There's an expectation. I'm going to give you room to mess it up. I'm going to lead you the right way. I'm going to guide you. I'm going to give you grace. I'm going to give you love. We're going to make it right, right? There's nobody that's ever done that and never will do that like Jesus did. Now he's the only person that didn't have those flaws, right? That didn't have to accept grace, but he chose to give it no matter what. And that's something that, man, he came to die on a cross for a sinner like me that doesn't deserve it and never will. And he chose it knowing me all those years ago, knowing me and knowing my heart and knowing how bad of a sinner that I was going to be. And he chose still to sign on that dotted line and make that sacrifice and make that covenant, take all the sin, take all the punishment away, so that he could be our father.
That's right.
Right.
Well, I love that response, and that's awesome. I often get the question, what do I like the most about my job with FCA? Is it to stand on the sidelines? Is it like to go to some of these things, to be in the dugout, to be close to those coaches, to the joy of my job is to watch men and women after they graduate grow up and man find their calling and find their purpose. And some of them do it earlier. Some of them do it while they're in college. Some of them do it while they're out or when they're out. But I love seeing that. I love seeing men become the men that God's called them to be the husbands and the father that they've called them to be, to wives to be the wives and the nurturer of their families. And dude, you're doing it. It brings me great joy. It brings me great joy to see. The verse is to see my children walking in the truth. Well, man, it gives me great joy to watch people that I have watched grow, walk in truth. I'm super proud of you. Thanks for coming on this show, but more importantly, coming on a podcast. Just thanks, man. Thanks for living out your faith. Thanks for it being important to you. Loving your wife. You do it well. Perfect? No, probably not. But you love her well, and your kids. So, thanks for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate you. It's been a joy talking to you.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you for being here. It's a joy as always.
All right, buddy. Thanks, man.